Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Precious Matiko. Here we talk all things CIMA, academics, careers and wellness. If you haven't clicked on that subscribe button, please do so and turn on your post notifications so that you'll be alerted every time I post a new video. In 2024, we're doing better with consistency, so I'm planning to post a new video every Thursday. So today's video is dedicated to the people who are preparing for their case study exam, whether you're writing in Feb or in the feature sittings for CIMA. This video is just for you. So today we're going to be focusing on exam technique and strategies, and also some of the reasons why people fail their CIMA exams according to CIMA examiners and markers who have seen over time a repetition of tendencies that make people fail their exam. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Also, to all my postgrad students who are not my postgrad students, but people who are doing postgrad who might be watching this video, definitely you'll find value from this video because you are at a level where you're expected to write at a case study level, right? So the first thing first is your mindset. When you walk into the exam room, I always say to people who ask me for advice that the moment you walk in, you are no longer a student. You are now a financial manager, whether you are a financial accountant at operational level, or you are a financial manager at management level, or you are a senior financial manager at strategic level. Point is, you are no longer a student. So make sure that when you walk in with that mindset, and it's going to help you, one, to know what perspective you're supposed to have when answering the questions, and secondly, it's also going to help you to have that confidence. Like there was this trend in 2023 that Delulu is the Solulu. Trust me, be delusional and tell yourself that you know what, you've got this. Even if a question comes at you and you're like, you know what, I don't know. What would you do if you're working in that company? Would you say you don't know to your senior financial manager? Would you say that to your director? Of course not. You just say like, you know what, I can figure this out. So be delusional if needs be. Second point is show, don't tell. And what we mean by this is do not tell me the theory. Do not tell the examiner the theory. Rather show. At this level, at case study level, you're expected to analyze and apply and also give advice. So rather give a story or tell a story of what the numbers actually mean instead of just telling or reiterating the theory. This is very, very important. When you get into the exam, you will see that there's an unseen information which is linked to the task. Do not reiterate that information. Rather add value. And how do you do that? Show, don't tell. So make sure that you just tell a story, give examples, say something that is not already in the precinct, because the person who asked you the question knows the precinct and they still have other questions. So the third thing is time management. So time management is very important when you're writing your CIMA case study. You will notice that when you walk in and you do your first section, so the exam is divided into 4 sections. Each section has 45 marks. And there's a timer that's going to count down from 45 minutes from the moment that you open that section. And you have 45 minutes to read the unseen information, to plan your answer and to actually answer the question. So what they normally suggest is that you're going to take the 45 minutes and multiply it by the percentage required for that task. So you have 2 subtasks within a section. Task A, let's say it's 40%, task B 60%. So you're going to take that 45 minutes, multiply it by 60% to get 27 minutes. In that 27 minutes, a third of that 27 minutes is for reading and planning your answer. This is very important, right? It's important for you to read the answer information and also plan how you're going to do your answer. And when we say answer planning, I do not really advise you to be writing on a piece of paper. Rather write on, like type on the computer, meaning like you have your headings, the things that you want to touch on, that's your answer planning. Let's say they say, how do we account for leases in this example, like in the scenario, and then you're going to have your headings. And then your headings are part of your planning. So in that 9 minutes, you read and you plan. I mean, it's roughly 9 minutes. I will be honest, sometimes I did go under the 9 minutes because I felt like I had already done everything. I've read and I've planned, and then I started writing even when the 9 minutes is not up. But don't go beyond that. And then now you start typing, and then under each heading have 3 or 4 points that are basically explaining the heading. Do not leave your answers as just bullet points or headings or something like that, which I will get into towards the end of the video about reasons why people fail the CIMA exams. Okay, and then the next thing is mock exams. So it's very important for you to do at least, I would say at least 4 mock exams. So this, by the time that this video is up, it's going to be about a week from your exam. So I think the rest of the time, if you're writing in the February sitting, that you have from the time that I post this video to your exam, use it for more questions. Other people do have other advice, like go back to the theory and whatnot. I honestly think that is not going to help you as much as the mock questions. So the mock questions, make sure that you do them under exam conditions. This is very important so that you can develop that skill of being under time pressure and also typing in the time pressure. So when you're doing mock questions, when we talk about exam conditions, we're talking about the time, we're talking about your writing environment, and also your method of writing. So when we talk about the time, have a timer for 45 minutes. And if the mock question says 60%, divided by the 45 minutes, apportion it to 60% to get how much time you have to spend in the first part of the question. And then do it under exam conditions. Type your answers out. If you are watching this and you're in postgrad, you haven't entered into actually writing exams yet, this is also important for postgrad. Write your answer under exam conditions. Type out your answer. You're not going to be handwriting your CIMA exam, so do not practice as though you're going to do that, right? So you want to practice as you are going to be tested. But also a side note on this is that do not overdo the practice questions. When we say overdo, do not do it to a point where you're now cramming the answers and say, okay, if they ask me transfer pricing, I'm going to say this. If they ask me business model, this is what I'm going to say because that's what they said in the mock question suggested solution. I mentioned this in my previous video, one of my previous videos about preparing for the CIMA case study exams, and I said that the mock questions come with suggested solutions. They are not the ultimate solution. It is a suggested solution. So you just use it to know how they normally write. So what I did, I had a document of my mock questions, all the questions that I attempted, and then I would say, okay, so in this question, this is what they were asking. Let's say in this question, they were asking about the share price. This is a strategic level. So they were asking about the share price. And these are the things that, like common things that I need to think about if they say, how will the share price be affected by this decision or by this new development or this circumstance? Maybe like something happened to their reputation. How will it affect their share price and whatnot? So I will like write down almost like a skeleton of the things that I need to think about. But when I actually do now a question regarding a share price, that is a skeleton, right? That is just to give me a baseline of where to start, but it is not the ultimate thing because the question that I'm asked in the actual exam could be different to the mock question. So if you're still cramming the mock question, you run the risk of answering what is not required. Okay, so now moving on to what we mean when we say application. So it's very important in your CIMA case study exam to apply your theory and not just theory dump or take what is in the unseen information and reiterate it. So what it means to apply is that you are given information, you analyze it, and then you give an outcome. Like it's almost like they're giving you an input, you process it, and then you give the outcome. And that's what it means to apply yourself in a question, right? This is where you need to make sure that one, you read through the task very carefully. What I did during the exam is that I had the task opened the whole time as I was typing, and every so minutes or every minute or so I would look at that task and making sure that I actually answer the required. It's also important not to drift. Sometimes when you don't know what to say, you're all over the place and now you're drifting and you're answering things that are not asked and all those things. So do not drift. Keep to the point. Make your point and move. Some people exhaust the point. Like, okay, I used to do this as well. I was actually looking through some of my past papers for postgrad and the way that I used to answer questions. And I remember I consulted with my PRS lecturer, shout out, and I asked her what's wrong with the way that I answer, and she said you ever exhaust the point. Because on the one end there are people who write bullet points and don't explain anything, and then there are people who make a point and write 6 lines explaining the same thing over and over again. You're not given marks for the quantity of your answer as much as you're given marks for the quality of your answer. So it's very important for you to make sure that when you're applying yourself in the question, you're actually giving real concrete answers, right? And another thing is to attempt all questions. Avoid skipping questions, avoid not attempting a question at all. This is one important, because if you give the marker something to mark, they can look for marks for you, right? But if there's nothing there's nothing that they can do. I remember I used to do this thing in postgrad where the first 2 questions are proper, like it's sentences, it's paragraphs, it's headings, everything is proper. The last 3 questions, like I would write only a few points. Or I remember there was this one question, I was so disappointed. I even consulted with my lecturer and she was like, Precious, what was happening? I actually wrote like I think it was 2 lines in a 10-mark question, like where even if these 2 lines are supposed to be high quality, where they're supposed to get the marks for you if you only write 2 points in a question that is 10 marks. You get what I mean? In CIMA, they don't really work with marks like that, but you can actually calculate, because in total the marks themselves it's 100 marks, although it is out of 150, but it's 100 marks. So when they say section 1 is 25 marks, so you know, like, okay, your section 1 needs to have 25 marks. So if you only write 1 sentence, where are they going to look for the marks? And secondly, the reason why it's important to attempt all questions is because if you don't attempt all questions, you run the risk of not meeting your competencies. So CIMA has these competencies, or they call them, is it critical task or something? I forgot the term that they use, but basically you need to meet those, I think it's called core activities. Yeah, you need to meet those core activities within each section that you're answering. So if they were looking for something in F2 and you skipped all the F2 answers or questions, then you're not going to pass. Get what I mean? So attempt all questions. So yeah, those are the tips that I have in terms of your exam strategy. And then now I'm going to briefly talk about the top reasons why people fail the CIMA exams. 1, it is not applying the theory. Some people just are very good with theory. That is not my best, that is not a strength of mine. Sometimes I would be like, you know what, I know this thing, I don't know which part of the textbook it is, but I know it. I know that this is the thing. So some people are actually good at memorizing the theory, which is a good thing, but just make sure that you do not over rely on the theory and you avoid applying. You need to apply yourself, apply your mind into the scenario. Second reason is not answering the required. This is from not understanding what the required is, which is why it's very important. Read that thing as many times as it requires you to understand it. Read the task over and over, making sure that you understand it, right? So it's either you don't understand what is asked or you are hoping for a different question. And then you see a word. I remember there was this thing that we used to do in postgrad, that we would see someone says anything about ethics, and now you're thinking of, okay, oh no, governance. Someone is asking you about governance, and already your mind is flying to integrity, confidentiality, and all those things, and you're not even understanding what is actually asked. So this is where you answer what you hope was in the question and not what is actually in the question. And then thirdly, lack of development in the answers. There's this thing that is very important when you're answering a question. Go beyond just being basic, especially at strategic level. It's not only important for you to say, okay, this is the impact it's going to have on our shareholders. Go beyond and go to the risk. What are the risks? What is the financial implication? What about our strategy? Combine all the pillars. Go financial, risk, and strategy in all your answers. Make sure that you combine all the pillars, right? So that's with the lack of development with your answers. And then another thing is quoting models and not applying them. So E2 has a lot of okay, let me say the E pillar has a lot of models. Like you have models for different things, right? So some people quote the model but they don't apply it. So sometimes it's actually important not to actually quote the model but rather apply it, because if you quote it, then you need to make sure that everything is in there. So make sure that when you quote a model, you actually do apply it, and you don't actually need to say according to quarters 5 this is this. No, they ask you for, let's say, macroeconomic implications, and you know that macro, you need to mention a certain model. You don't need to say, okay, this is the model. Just apply it. And then also the last reason, or one of the top reasons why people fail the CIMA exam, is that their answers are short and incomplete. Like I mentioned, there was a time where I would overextend myself in one question and not give sufficient answers in another question. And the main reason for that is time management. So you have 45 minutes to do 2 tasks. Make sure that you do not, like there's this meme where you draw the first part of the question very well, and then towards the end you're like, what is happening here? Make sure that you apply yourself well, and you ensure that you do not get to a point where your answer is lacking towards the end. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please leave a like and a comment down below. Let me know what more questions you have, and if you're writing in the February sitting, all the best. I wish you all the best, and whether you're writing the operational management or strategic level, all the best to you. I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.